Greetings and welcome back to a Final Fantasy XIV video. Today we're taking a look at the Summoner and the basics as well as what could be considered a optimal rotation for this class, because this class does not really have any damage windows built into their kit. Unlike the Ninja or the Dragoon that have certain abilities that increase their damage, the Summoner does not, but he does have some pretty good and constant damage that he can dish out. So, before we actually start going into that, we're going to go over the abilities and how it's changed over the past, well, expansion, because it's actually very different from Stormblood, and how those changes have affected the quote-unquote rotation and our damage output. So, first, as you can see, compared to Stormblood, we now only have 2 charges of, what's it called, Ether? Yeah, Ether Flow instead of 3, and it's actually very different to summon Bahamut, and we actually have a lot of other things, so let's take a look. So, for some reason, we still have Psychic, but the cure potency is so low and our healing attribute is so low that it is absolutely not worth even having on our bar here. As I am going to show you, we are going to heal a significant amount of 700. And I have almost 70,000, so that was what, 1% of my HP? Yeah, you might as well remove it once you get to higher levels. Then what else do we have? We still have our regular summons, but we have Energy Drain, which has been there for a while. This will grant us 2 charges of Ether Flow, which we will then use up for things like Fester or Pain Flare, depending on what we want to do. Now, I believe back in Stormblood, Pain Flare was its own cooldown, I think. But now it actually uses up a charge of Ether Flow, so yeah, it's kind of very different from what it used to be. Then the other thing that's changed a lot is Bahamut. Now, if you read the second line, it says, each time you cast a spell. This is very different from the back in Stormblood, where it actually said whenever you did an action. This means that we can no longer spam absolutely everything in our arsenal and have Bahamut pretty much rain chaos and destruction on the target. That unfortunately is no longer possible, so we need to make a choice when we summon Bahamut. And that is, either do we keep moving and be safe and use Ruin 3, which has a potency of 160, along with either our Fester or Plane Flare abilities, or can we afford to sit still and use standard Ruin 3 casts, which will hit harder. It takes a cast, but I believe after 4 or 5, the damage output would significantly overpass Ruin 2. So that's something we need to pay attention to. Then we still have Tri-Disaster, which afflicts the targets with BL3 and Miasma 3, depending on what level those are at. They still reset on entering Redworm Trance right here. It resets Tri-Disaster, as you can see, so it's very useful. Now, one thing that they did give us is here, Bane, as you can see there, full duration of original effects. Now, what that means is that when this spreads, the ones that are afflicted by the new spread will have the timer reset to its full duration, but unfortunately this will not reset the duration of the one that you are targeting, the original one you cast, to its full duration. That means it will still expire. But you can't, if you're dealing with an AoE pack, you can spread it, switch to another target, spread it again, and just keep doing that. That's actually pretty viable, although it isn't particularly good because it is good, but it's not that useful because most of the time you're spamming a lot of other spells. So what else has changed? Let's see, I don't think anything particularly big other than that has changed. So let's take a look at our new traits and abilities, shall we? Let's start with the traits. So level 72. It has Dreadworm Trance, grants 2 units of Dreadworm Ether upon the end of Dreadworm Trance. That means with only 1 Dreadworm Trance active, we will be able to summon Bahamut, which is actually very good because of the way things work now. So the rotation we start off is going to be Dreadworm Trance. As soon as it ends with the Death Flare, we are going to summon Bahamut, so that makes it very nice. Then Enhanced Edgy Assault grants further ruin upon using Edgy Assault 2. Now let's see, that's that one. Just let me confirm something. Enhanced Enkindle, no. Where is Ruin Mastery? Was Ruin? No. Enhanced Ruin, Corrupted Mastery, Man Corrupted. Enhanced Enkindle. Where is the one I am looking for? Now let's see, if we look here, maximum charges 2, no. Now that is very interesting. That's Edgy Assault. There should be one that, Enhanced Ruin, there we go, grants further round, Edgy Assault. The Edgy Assault used must be an attack action, but this one actually doesn't have that requirement. The reason it doesn't have that requirement is because the Assault 2 of every pet you have is an attack, so Yeah. So yeah, now we actually have we can actually quickly charge 4 charges of Ruin 4 thanks to our pet in between our Bahamut and our new phase that we're talking about later. Then Enhanced Outburst, it just increases the potency from 70 to 90, pretty much standard but very boring. Enhanced Bane, we just went over. Extends the duration of Bio and Mesa applied by Bane to the full duration, we just went over that. And lastly, Enhanced Firebird. So this is our second type of trance. Now, as you can see there, cannot enter Firebird trance unless a pet is summoned, just like Bahamut. Current pet will leave the battlefield and will return once again, obviously. Now, how do we go into that? Well, what happens is that after we exit Summon Bahamut phase, our Dreadroom Trance instantly transforms into that which is here. As you can see, Dreadroom Trance has changed to Firebird Trance upon Demi Bahamut leaving the field. It shows a recast time of Dreadroom Trance. So yeah, what is happening now is that we are starting with Dreadroom Trance, then summoning Bahamut. Now, as soon as Bahamut leaves the field, 35 seconds after that, because of the cooldown they share, we are going to enter the new Firebird Trance, which at the same time will summon a Phoenix. So as you can see, Firebird Trance and Enhanced Firebird Trance here. It's very powerful because it is a combination of Dreadroom Trance plus Bahamut in one single ability. And yeah, the amount of damage you can do in that time is very, very low. It's a lot, honestly. So, what is a rotation that I was talking about? Well, the quote-unquote rotation. Well, as I was just alluding, you want to start with Tri-Disaster, obviously, because we're about to enter Dreadroom Trance as soon as the fight starts. So, using that ability right off the bat, we'll instantly get it off cooldown because we entered Dreadroom Trance. Then we are going to spam, obviously, our Ruin 3, along with either Drain Energy or Energy Siphon and Outburst, depending on the situation. Let's assume we are fighting a trial or a raid boss, so yeah. We're going to do spamming Ruin 3, then Energy Drain, a Fester, another Ruin 3, then another Fester, and then we're pretty much done with things you can do while spamming that. Now, obviously, we want to finish with Deathler, it hits like a truck. And as soon as that is over, we are going to enter Summon Bahamut phase, because we are going to instantly summon him as soon as he's available. We want to get into Bahamut and Phoenix phases as quickly as possible. So as soon as we summon Bahamut, because he now only attacks when we cast a spell, which kind of sucks, we need to decide. So as soon as we summon him, we're going to enkindle him so he can use his Akmorn, which hits like a truck. And then we need to make a decision. Are we safe enough, and will the boss not move in enough time that we can normal cast Ruin 3s? Or do we have to lower our damage a little bit and rely on Ruin 2s while we run for our lives? That is going to depend on the situation. Now by this time, Tri-Disaster, or by that I mean Bio 3 and Miasma, they're going to have at around 15 seconds left on their timer, so it's kind of iffy. So they're going to be going down before we enter Firebird Trance. So once we're done with the entire Bahamut phase, then we are going to have 35 seconds of nothing to do. And the reason for that is because Dreadroom Trance has a 55-second cooldown and lasts for 15 seconds. It shares the same cooldown with Firebird Trance, as you can see right there. So that tells us that's 45 seconds. Yeah, pretty much. If we open our traits here, let's see, Firebird Trance. Yep, 55 seconds. Only that one actually lasts 20 seconds. Yep, 20 seconds, okay. Duration, 20 seconds, and it's got a recast timer of 30 seconds? No, oh, hold on, there we go. That's what I'm trying to, okay. So this lasts 20 seconds, and it's summoned immediately after we exit Dreadroom Trance, so, I think my math is a little wrong here, but I think it's better if we just show you slowly, and then we go for the full rotation. So, here is our target dummies for today. So, as soon as the fight, oh yeah. And in case you're wondering, in case you didn't know, Garuda Edgy, which is your caster type, this is the one you want for doing lots of AoE. This will be generally the one you want out in dungeons where tanks are pulling pull after pull of lots of stuff to kill. And then once you get to the boss, you want to summon Ifrit Edgy. So this is the best single target one. Its abilities deal decent damage to a single target. Even though this one's kind of an AoE, but hey, at least it's something. But it deals more damage hits and no more attacks than Garuda. So let's get started, shall we? So as we step before, start with Tri-Disaster, immediately enter Dreadroom Trance and start spamming. Do that, into the Fester, keep spamming Ruin 3. Keep it going, another Fester, keep it going, we have a chance for one more. There we go. Into Bahamut, into the Instant Enkindle, into the normal casting of Ruin 3 because we are not in any danger right now. So right now we have had no chance to do any of our abilities because we've been essentially stuck in the outer recast timer. And we're almost there, and that's as much as we could do. So we said that, keep it going, and now during this break in between Bahamut and Firebird Trance, we are going to have our little summon do its attacks to get our 4 charges of Ruin 4. And here we go into Gremlin. So as you can see, our Ruin 3 and our whatever it's called are replaced by new Phoenix unique abilities that chain into each other, are instant, and deal a boatload of damage. So as you can see, Phoenix is absolutely a monster when it comes to damage. And there we go. Okay, get back here, you. So yeah, that is just a quick overview of the rotation. Let's get out of combat. There we go. There we go. So what could we have done better there? Can I get rid of this? I cannot. Get back here, you. There we go. That solves that problem. Okay, so when we were in Dreadroom Trance, we were spamming Ruin 3 along with Energy Drain or Energy Siphon, depending on the opponents, and using those Fester charges as quickly as possible. Once Dreadroom Trance ended its little rotation, we went straight into Summon Bahamut, triggered its Enkindle as quickly as possible so we had enough chance to cast it if we had to move. And during the time, we were hard casting Ruin 3. Now, if we are in a situation like right now, when we have our charges of Ruin 4 available to us, we want to be using those. They deal a lot more damage. And especially since after Bahamut, we have around 35 seconds of not being able to enter either the phase, that is the perfect time to have our summon use its edgy assaults to get these charges back. Now, the other thing we can do to increase our damage, outside of making sure that Bio and Miasma are always on the target, even though you could be forgiven for losing track of it, is making sure that we use Ether Pact before we enter Phoenix phase. Now, because our player is going to leave the field, we need to make sure that we receive the buff before we actually hit the Phoenix button, so that we can actually deal as much damage as possible. Other than that, it really comes down to using everything you have as soon as it comes off cooldown to maximize your damage. So with all that said and done, let's go for an actual rotation this time, shall we? So let's start with my Asthma, straight into Dreadroom Trance, spam this, into the Energy Drain, into the Festers, into that because it doesn't give us a charge, so it's fine if we use it right now. And we have space for one more Ruin, there it is, into the charge, into the Enkindle Bahamut, into the hard casting of Ruin 3, into that. Now, I am not sure how much skill recast you would need to reduce the recast timer on Ruin down to 1.5 seconds, but I figure it's way too much. Okay, and now is the time to recover those charges of Ruin 4. There we go, we got him back. We still have 5 seconds before Phoenix, so we'll do a couple of these casts. And get ready, so now Ether Pact, into Phoenix, into its Enkindle, into its chained abilities. Into that, because it's off the global cooldown. Enkindle again, Phoenix, into Fester once again, into its own abilities. And we are done. So, now that we are waiting for Dreadroom Trance to come back cooldown, we can kind of do this little rotation here, alternating between our pet's Edgy Assault and our Ruin Force while we have a chance. Because we're going to have a lot of time here. As you see there, I forgot about Bio and Miasma for a while there. So you can be forgiven for losing track of it with all the dungeons you're going to be doing with raid bosses and everything. And there we go, Dreadroom Trance. Four, three, to... Don't want to risk it. Into the Bahamut once more. And as you can see, because we're casting, we can't actually use any of our abilities in between our casts. So if you actually want to use Fester and Drain Energy, make sure you use Instant Cast instead. And goodbye it goes. Okay, so now we can use them. And unfortunately, we got to hard cast them because we want to make sure we save that swift cast in case somebody goes down. Use that because it's higher damage. And here comes Phoenix. Okay, Siphon Energy is almost back. There it is. Into the Fester. Can we get one more? Yes, we did. Excellent. And we summoned that. There we go. And as you can see, we are literally using just anything we have at our disposal that deals the most damage whenever it's up. The only exception to this is Ether Pact, because we want to increase the damage we do with Phoenix because it's our most damaging phase. And now we're out of Ruin 4, so we gotta go with the normal ones. Now at this point, we could hard cast Miasma and Bio, but because we're about to enter Dreadroom Trance and it resets the cooldown on Tri-Disaster, like that, we can afford to wait a little bit. There we go. Okay, we got our Ether Pack back. And I almost forgot about Death Flare there. That would have been bad. Okay, time for another Akmorn. There it is. Come on, can we get it? Nope, we cannot. Okay, time for some that. Now, unfortunately, at this point, we need to hard... Oh, sorry about that. Hard cast that into the Drain Energy. Into our Pet's attack so we can get those charges going. And into Ether Pact. Into Phoenix. There we go, and we are out, and that is essentially what we are going to do. That, in quote-unquote, is the rotation for the Summoner. It's not as much as a rotation as a make sure everything you can do is off cooldown. Now, because of that, you may feel like your damage is a little on the low side, but you gotta remember that we are doing constant damage throughout the entire fight. We're not relying on one phase to do our entire damage like the Ninja or the Dragoon, if I recall. So we are more or less similar to the Monk in that we do all of our damage constantly. We don't have any big cooldowns, but Bahamut and Phoenix definitely make up for that with the amount of damage that they can do. Now, I am not sure if this is more or less damage than we had back then, but I think it's more. Having both Bahamut and Phoenix available and having Phoenix be able to spam two abilities that are very powerful along with its Enkindle, which deals even more damage, definitely sounds like it could have even more damage than we did in the past. So yeah, the Summoner, that is essentially all that can be said. The only thing left to do is actually go out there and try it yourself. That little rotation that comes naturally from starting into Dreadroom Trance, into Bahamut, into a waiting period, into the Firebird Trance, into another waiting period, is essentially what it's essentially what we are forced to do by the game. But it works out pretty decently. The only hard part about the Summoner is making sure your Bio and Miasma are always on the target. If you forget, then yeah, just put it back up as soon as you notice without interrupting your chain of, your attack chains, and make sure you avoid any of the boss's AoE because a dead Summoner deals no damage. So yeah, the Summoner. Not much that can be said about that, but hopefully you find it useful, and we will see you next time.